Hey, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a lot of fun playing Demonic Pacts League. I just wrapped up Dragon Rank in my first character playthrough of League 6, so I wanted to do a quick little recap video. So let's get into the agenda. So first, I had to do a little quick recording of when I achieved Dragon Rank, so I'll just play a quick little footage of that in a second. Then I want to talk about the relic choices that I made. I already shared my plans with you. I didn't deviate too much, but I do want to talk a little bit about like relic selection and regrets that I had. I also want to talk about the areas I selected and maybe whether or not they were the best choice for me, and then whether they're not the best choice for you the next time you're considering your area selections. I also want to talk about my ending Demonic Pact tree and how that I kind of use to kind of achieve my goals, and maybe that'll be one of your resets to get into this tree and see how helpful it was. And lastly, I also do want to talk about the packs that I left unlocked. If you watched my video, I'll leave a link in the description below of my analysis of all the demonic packs. I did highlight that there were some really challenging steps, and I thought I wasn't going to be able to achieve all 40 points. Now, Jagex did do a bunch of changes and did give us a lot of simpler demonic pack points and resets, so I won't kind of go into all those in detail, but I will say the demonic packs overall, my analysis was about correct and achieving about 38 points, and that did get really kind of boosted with Jagex, so I didn't have to do as much of a grind, but I'll talk about that when we get there. So first up, let's cue up this quick little highlight video. All right, we're just recording the last grind to agility to 95. It's going to give us base 95s, and we're at 64,600 points. Base 95s should give us another 400 points. And as we cross this last balance and jump this last gap, coming across the finish line, we should wrap up, hitting up our Dragon Rank. All right, moment of truth. Did I do my math right? XP left, 10K XP drop, boom. There's base 95s, there's the points, and there is Dragon Rank. All right, catch you in the rest of the recap. Thanks for watching. And I realized that my camera was covering the chat, so there we go. Turn off the camera. There we go. We can see agility 95, Dragon Rank, total points 65,000. Open up the rank menu, achieve the final rank. All right, back to the recap. And we're back. All right, so the relics. Nothing really changed ever since I shared my updated plan. Endless Harvest was my first choice, absolutely phenomenal choice. A ton of AFK potential, great for casually playing the game on your downtime or anything else. It got me a ton of 99s and 50 mils and 25 mil experience. Tons of tasks were unlocked behind Endless Harvest. It was great. Don't forget, you get twice as much loot from it, which is so powerful. That pretty much doubles your AFK XP rates. Absolutely super awesome. At tier 2, all right, so this is the one that I had this debate between Hotfoot and Woodsman for a while. I do think Woodsman overall was the better choice to get into and push towards Dragon Cup. There are just so many more tasks associated with Hunter, especially with the Hunter's Guild and contracts there. Tons of points with Hunter, things like catching Red Chinchompas in both Taranwin and Kandarin, which were 200 points each. So overall, I think Woodsman was just really powerful for getting those early tasks and those mid to late game tasks and getting a lot of points. I do think, and you'll see I didn't actually max and get to 99 agility, and that's where Hotfoot, like I said, was going to make that big game change. I think it's still much easier to hit 99 Hunter without the boosts of a relic, and so I think if you were going to max your account and go for like max points or max total levels and rank, stuff like that, I think Woodsman would probably not have been your choice. So I did have a little bit of regret because I think I originally planned on maxing. I might still just AFK barb fishing, and that's how actually I achieved my 95 for the most part, even though I know in my video I was jumping off the rooftop course. That was just for the last kind of hop to the cup kind of finale. But I will say, it is possible to AFK the barbarian fishing to get to 99 agility. It just takes a lot of time. I think you're getting just under 200k XP an hour, and so that's like 5 of those is 1 mil, and you got 13 mil, or maybe like minus 1 or 2 mil because you're already level 70 or something, right? So let's say like 10 mil times that. It's just so many hours of gameplay that you have to be AFKing, and I don't really like. I want to AFK, but I don't want to AFK that much. In addition to all of the other skills I'm AFKing, and so that's probably why I might just keep my account on and just max. Anyways, moving on. Eagle Eye, Bank Heist, and Map of Alacrity. I did start spinning up a second account where I was testing out Map of Alacrity, and it was a little bit clunky to use and just like knowing where those teleport points were. So I didn't really like it that much. I would say Evil Eye was great really into the end game, because in the end game you're doing a lot of PVM, you're killing bosses. Anytime I had to like just go AFK, I could quickly go somewhere and just set up my AFK. So like I got the fishing cape, I would just teleport to the grotto and just go barb fish AFK for the agility XP, and then I would just use Evil Eye just to teleport quickly back to Hydra. Because I was killing Hydra. So I think that was really, really awesome. It's obviously not the same power as like Total Recall is, but I will say Evil Eye was really, really good at getting into the PVM content. I will say I struggled early on as it just wasn't such a powerful teleport. However, okay, this is where I think Woodsman had a really strong Seeker weapon, which is the Teleport Infinite Quetzal Whistle. That was unreal. I actually used that so much in the game. The teleports they're already really good in Varlamore in general, and because that was our starting region, I used that for planting my trees, for running around just in different Varlamore, getting to Auburnvale, getting to Alderan, right? All the things you need to do. That whistle was amazing, and because Woodsman gave you unlimited charges, that became your teleport savior. So I would really say that even though Evil Eye was really weak early on, I think the Woodsman pick at tier 2 really kind of saved my teleports early on. And so then Evil Eye came online really good in the late game. I still think Bank Heist overall as an all-rounder is probably still the best, just because there are banks next to a lot of the content, like chambers and some bosses and such. And so just kind of keep that in mind. Evil Eye was definitely not the wrong pick by any means, but I will say the early on gameplay was definitely benefited by the whistle that I got from Woodsman that kind of saved me. All right, tier 4. Now this is probably where I had the most relic regret. So Transmute did turn out to be very, very powerful, okay? Don't get me wrong, it is absolutely a straight like game changer of a relic. In the early game, I was able to convert a lot of my seeds up to get those infinite seeds. If you saw my video on that, I was also able to convert my transmute, the hides, and craft like all like the blue d'hide bodies for tasks and a ton of crafting, right? I was able to convert up my gems for crafting experience. I was able to convert a ton of ore all the way up to rune to sell to make a ton of money. I actually made most of my coin that way. Now, I did have Larcenous at tier 5, and so it didn't really matter that I, had Transmute to make money, because I could have just thieved all the money. But nonetheless, I did use Transmute a lot. I did hit that 200 mil XP and 100 mil XP on Magic way earlier on because of it. I think I would have hit that regardless because I was doing a mage build anyway, so I wasn't too worried about hitting those thresholds, but it did definitely accelerate that because it's a 0-time skill just to keep one inventory slot and just keep transmuting, right? However, the biggest reason I have the regret is because I didn't have a strong Herblore solve. My Herblore ended, I think it's at 97 right now. I did, do a lot of herbs from a lot of bosses, like Hydra dropped a ton of herbs, but I did end up doing a ton of farm runs, right? And because I was doing the farm runs, I wasn't planting Irrits, for example. Like Irrits, you can just buy the secondary Eye of Newts, and you can get tons of experience, right? But because I had to do the farm runs and I also was getting the secondaries and other things, I was trying to maximize what I would actually get. And so attack potions are a lower level potion. They have a lower XP drop. And so I was pretty much running and planting like Torstols or something else, trying to get the most out of it in addition to my drops. I did go kill Sarachnis for a while just so I could, get a bunch of red spider eggs. And then I was planting snapdragons, and that was actually pretty good as well. But nonetheless, I wasn't able to hit 99 Herblore with it. And so I think Butler's Bell would have been the savior because I would have gotten effectively infinite, at least Irrit potions, right? Unfinished ones. And then I could just finish them with Eyes of Newts. The other part, an annoying thing is because of my regions, I had no way to kind of, make the potions quickly, the unfinished potions, or, clean the herb. I mean, I did have degrime, I guess, which I did use a lot, but I had no other way to kind of just prepare the ingredients, which was kind of tedious and annoying. I did end up buying the potion storage unlock just so I could make one dosers really fast and stuff like that. But nonetheless, I think Butler's Bell would have really saved the day there. Butler's Bell would have also kind of fixed my early smithing issue that I had with Taranwin. And so I think that's my biggest regret is based off of my build, I really should have gone Butler's Bell. I think my friends just kind of hyped up Transmute, and it was a great pick. Don't get me wrong. It helped with a lot of tasks early on, and Infinite Seeds was awesome. awesome. So that was really cool. It's just, I think Butler's Bell would have been easier to hit that 99 all skills for sure. At tier 5, I picked Larcenist. I think this is probably one of the most no-brainer picks. For me, I don't detest farming. Farming is really, really easy. I had transmute to make all of my seeds, and so like I got 50 mil farming experience without even trying. Even if half of my trees died, I didn't care because I had infinite dragon fruit trees and magic saplings that it didn't matter. And so Nature's Accord was only really beneficial for probably maybe fixing Herblore a little bit and getting better primaries and secondaries. But again, I think Larcenist unlocked so many tasks and points and good money making actually as well. And so I think Larcenist was phenomenal with Tronwyn. And I think in most regions in general, and Kandarin, because there's a lot of like thieving tasks in Kandarin as well. All right, and then so moving on to tier 6, Culling Spree was great. I think getting and chaining those superiors was awesome. I did at one point have like 2 superiors at once because I killed a monster that spawned a superior because of the boosted rates. In addition to that, the superior that I was killing also respawned another superior. So that was kind of cool to see that happen and just chain tons of superiors. Remember, there was a bunch of tasks for superiors as well, so I was able to crush through that. I also got an Eternal Gem, and I'm pretty sure I got 2 Imbued Hearts as well. And so like just because of the high superior rates, I also got like 40 mil Slayer XP just because it was so easy with the tasks and everything. I could have easily hit 50 mil if I tried. It wasn't a task that I felt like I needed to go for to get to the Dragon Cup. All right, so tier 7, I did reload back into Soul Harvest. This is absurd. I think at the Soul Altar, you're getting almost like 380 million experience per hour. You're pretty much limited to the game tick rate because you can click and you can fire the XP rate to the tick. I can click faster than the ticks with like 2 fingers on a mouse and just clicking. But it was absolutely absurd. It is the fastest XP rate in the game if you have a stackable essence type of resource in your inventory because of how fast you can do it. So yeah, 50, I got like 100 mil rune crafting experience. I did push and get the pet. I felt like this was a league where I was like, all right, if I don't go for 99 rune crafting or a rune crafting relic next time, if I have this relic now, I'm going to go for the pet. And I got it at like 100 something mil experience, which is great. I also got 50 million experience in prayer, super easy. Also, like that libation bowl where like you can do like the sunfire, the blessed bone shards and stuff like that. That's AFK. So like if I wanted to, I could have just put it up my character up there, clicked it once and walked away, and also had AFK prayer training as well, which was really nice. If you remember last league with Golden God, we had that AFK prayer training. Again, Soul Harvest brought the same thing back with AFK prayer training. I was doing those farming runs, getting tons of things. I was killing a bunch of Slayer monsters. And so both of those things were just really feeding into my soul shards. So yeah, absolute awesome choice. No regrets at tier 7 at all. And lastly, tier 8. Oh my God. Minion, so much fun. Auto looting into noted items extends your trips for everything. Now there's definitely some bugs. I think I had my loot setting at like 2,000, 3,000, 9,000, stuff like that. And I remember picking up stuff that was even high alch or GE values were way below that. I think my bank has like 50 adamant axes and 50 adamant kite shields because I accidentally auto looted them, even though my thresholds were way higher to their value point. So there was definitely some bugginess to it. There's also some weird annoyance with it where like if you were in the Catacombs of Kurend, if you set your threshold too high, you wouldn't auto loot like the totem pieces, right? So you can kill Tizo. So stuff like that was a little bit annoying and clunky with that auto looting mechanism, but I would say still overall it was awesome. Just getting those items into a noted value made it really, really valuable just to get all the items. It was so convenient. In addition to that, Minion was blasting tons of damage. I did unlock only 2 extra damage points, or like 4 extra points with the Zamorak robes early on, and then I went in and got the Unholy Blessing after you do the Observatory quest, and then I did a bunch of clues kind of at the end as I was pushing for those points, and got 2 Zami items and just didn't even think, just shoved it directly into the minion. And yeah, the damage is absolutely absurd. After I got the minion maxed out, I went ahead and like went to Zulrah and a few other bosses and got new PBs that were just faster kills just because of how much more damage the minion was doing. I think Flask of Fervor for me would have been really cool to try, so I might try that on my second time playthrough. Executioner's Axe, this is like very, very content dependent. I did see people like who were running chambers with me with the axe, and they just pretty much, were MVP all the time, max hitting and clearing up, all the bosses. So I think it's really good if you're going to pick triple raid regions or double raid regions. I think Executioner's Axe is absolutely awesome. I think aside from that, I don't really see as much use and honestly as much fun as Minion for sure. All right, moving on to the areas. So my regions were Taranwin, Kandarin, and Kurend. I picked them in the order of Taranwin first, then Kurend, and then Kandarin last. Honestly, I don't think the order really mattered. I think I put Kandarin last just because I really wanted to finish up Slayer and get into the 90s or 80s so I could kind of unlock it. As soon as I hit Kandarin, I think, like 20-ish thousand points. There were so many thieving tasks that I already had like 99 thieving for, and so I was just able to blast through them and unlock my next relic with unlocking Kandarin. So that was kind of nice, but also I think Kandarin had just lots of easy early on tasks that I missed out on that were a little bit of a struggle and pain. I think Taranwin I kind of pushed for early on just because I had kind of everything ready to go for the crystal. And so that was actually a really nice kind of push for me. And so it was interesting. I don't really regret any of my choices here in my regions. I will say Kurend was just like the demonic packs didn't make it so much fun. I also I just don't have fun doing Chambers of Xeric as much. I don't think it's as fun of a raid as Tob is, or even Toa is. And so I think that was my biggest issue with like the regions was like just the content in that region was just not really for me. A lot of my friends were there, and the night that we did do like a huge kind of like raids night with a bunch of chambers, I did have a lot of fun. Aside from that, I don't think Chambers was something I would kind of do casually just for fun for myself. Whereas like last league, I had so much fun in Mauritania and Tob that I actually like in my second account made it just so I could be a mage in Tob, and it made like a really weird setup as well too. And so nonetheless, honestly, I think most of the regions this league were awesome. If you watch the videos from Jagex, Fremnik was the least picked region, and I think that region is like if you look at it, even this map, it's so small. It just has very limited content in it. It'd be really cool if Jagex brought a raid to that region or brought some more content. I don't think Fremnik could ever be a starter region because it lacks so much content. I don't think, it would be a good time for anyone. And so I think Fremnik will always remain that kind of weak region. I think all the other regions in comparison to Fremnik are just better, more well-rounded, more content, more everything. Also, everyone kills Vorkath a million times and DKs a million times in like the early to mid game. It's just part of what you do to get your quiver and stuff. And so I think, it's just something that like people don't really want to do in leagues. So I think, if Jagex were to introduce some really fun content, I think Fremnik would be awesome. I think last league people just forced it just because of the drops. But yeah, nonetheless, no regrets here. I think I probably would swap Kurend with Mauritania next time. I think I'll just pick my regions based off of what I would have fun doing. But yeah, I think it was good. All right, moving on to the demonic packs. So I ended my tree with a Water Mage Thorns setup here. I think you've seen probably a few other deviations of this. I think like Foe, for example, has a couple of like light melee and combat and prayer nodes here, and then a few less nodes up here. Nonetheless, I think this was probably one of the best setups overall. You can pretty much just AFK a lot of content. Soul becomes trivial. For example, like you just Water Mage Thorn Soul. A lot of other bosses become really easy. Inferno's like a cakewalk with this setup. A few things I want to call out here. I think this bottom half of the tree, right, where you see like the regen nodes, the healing nodes, the accuracy nodes, this part of the tree is actually super duper phenomenal. I think almost everyone picks this regardless of what build they're going, just because there's so many good regen, accuracy, and healing nodes here. I think the only builds that don't pick this would be something that doesn't need healing as much or regeneration as much. But I I think there's very few regions or builds that actually don't pick this. So I think that was the most overall best, most powerful part of the tree that like every build used, which was the bottom right kind of like zigzaggy kind of like W kind of thing. Then Water Mage was awesome, just having access to 3-tick water spells and then 1-tick powered staves was just super, super fast and super awesome. I think there's just a lot of power here overall. And so this just made it for someone like me who's an average or maybe slightly above average player. Just make a lot of content trivial, and that also makes it easier just to farm. Like sometimes I'm just bored of like I don't want to do like 300 Hydra kills, and so doing something like this without having to worry about like always being on prayer or something like that, I think that was just a lot better for me. And then Thorns overall just did so much average damage. In addition to that, Thorns was the way to level to 50 mil XP in all melee combat styles. So that was absolutely bonkers. Like as soon as I didn't even do melee actually in my initial build started out as mage and range. When I got into melee, I had already respec into a Thorin setup, and then I just went and just maniacal monkeyed up to 99. Like it was just so trivial and so fast. It was amazing. So I would highly recommend this build if you haven't respec'd into it or trying it out. I would say Kandarin definitely helps the amount of water damage and healing you would do with the quadrant. So just kind of keep that in mind. Overall, though, really, really fun build. It really trivializes a lot of content. I probably won't go this on my second account, but I think it'll be a really cool build if you haven't played it yet. All right, last up, I think I want to talk about the demonic pacts that I have left. And this is a really interesting one. If you watch my video where I talk about the demonic pacts, I kind of call out there was like some medium ones, some easy ones, and some hard ones, depending on your skill level. Maybe I didn't like clarify like what I meant by hard. Where like when I said hard, I meant like you are a very, very skilled player if you're going to achieve the hard ones. I definitely didn't, I think, evaluate how strong they were. And Jagex did tweak some of them as well. Like I think like the Radiant Oath Plate now became just equipping full Oath Plate as well. But I think, these are the ones that I ended up with that I didn't complete. I might still complete these. Like, I think my friends probably still want to run some chambers, so I'll probably run some chambers with them. I might just hit the 25. I might also get an ancestral drop. But I wanted to talk about some of these. So Awakened Vardorvis, this is a melee, very specific kind of boss. You do need to drop the Awaken Orb, and every time you drop one, then you get another chance to try it out. If you're not spec'd into melee type of damage, you're not really getting the League's boosts to kill Awakened Vardorvis. And so that makes Awakened Vardorvis a little bit difficult. I did try him, I think, once or twice. I did do like a bunch of kills, but I didn't get a lot of Awakened Orbs in the kills that I did. And so after I tried and failed a few times, I said, yeah, I'll just get my points elsewhere, especially because Jagex did give us 3 extra points. I kind of just gave up on this one earlier on. I might just go back and try it again. I just didn't spend a lot of time. But I would say just because Awakened Vardorvis was a melee boss specific, I think it just makes it a little bit more challenging if you have some of those builds. Jagex did tweak some of the Echo bosses, for example, to be weaker to the different styles, so you don't have to change up your tree to fight a specific boss. However, Awakened Vardorvis, because it's just a typical game boss, did remain the same. So I think that was probably only the challenging bits here. I think all the other bosses are pretty trivial with Water Thorns. My biggest issue is I did a bunch of Doom. I never got Avernic Treads. And so I think, most of these remaining items are all drop-specific ones. So I did 305 Hydra kills, and I think on like 280 is when I got my Hydra leather. And after the 300th kill, and there's a 300 kill task, I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to go back and finish this. I figured I'd just get my points elsewhere. I only have 2 points technically remaining, and I thought I'd get it from chambers. I think I did 17 chambers so far, and I still haven't gotten a single ancestral. I pretty much got purples on all of them except for maybe 2 or 3, and I'm just getting a ton of dupes, unfortunately. And then for Radiant Oath, I did do a bunch of Yama kills. However, I got chest and legs. I still haven't gotten the helm. And I still haven't gotten a dupe of a chest and legs. Again, if I go back to Yama, I could do this. I just want to mainly call out in this one that I think like As I mentioned in my previous video, I think 36 to 38 was probably a reasonable one. I think Jagex giving us like 3 easy points helped a lot. So I think I probably would have ended up short. So I think my initial analysis was not on point. I also have like 3 resets left, so I could just reset into trees that would help kill, Awakened Vardor versus something else. So that wouldn't be so much of a problem. But I just want to call out that, like, because some of these things are drop dependent and because we don't have that dry protection on some of these drops, it can be very painful. So I hope, Jagex learns from this and tries to unlock your builds not so much on drop dependence things as opposed to killing things. Like maybe they put the points behind some sort of combat achievements or something like that instead. I think that would be a little bit more fair. Just because even though you could be a really, really skilled player, if you don't get the drop, you don't get the combat, the Demonic Pact, right? I think Foe went ultra dry on his enhanced Crystal Weapon Seed and went 14 hours in CG and Echo CG, and that is just exhausting. It's just 200 KCs, a lot to do in a league, especially early on, to try to get these Demonic Pact points, right? Because you're just trying to unlock the full potential of your build. So nonetheless, I think the Demonic Pacts were overall pretty good. I do really, really appreciate Jagex's changes. It did make the tree a lot more manageable and easier, and a lot more fun, I'll tell you that. I will say, however, that I think there's just a big blocker on getting lucky sometimes, or I guess if you're getting unlucky, that's a big problem. So overall, hey, thanks so much for watching. I'm probably going to come out with a video and a new series on a second build that'll be like a casual to content kind of playthrough. So definitely leave me your ideas. If you found this video helpful, definitely smash a like and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching.